Okay, great. Good to have you guys here today. Before we delve into the topic for the day, resume editing for MBA application, I'd just like to quickly introduce you to Lane for those who are joining us from the outside world, from space. Welcome to the virtual city called Lane, and Lane is basically a place where we leverage community to help people find schools that are suitable for their most honorable dreams. And what we do is we also do go beyond just helping them get into the schools that would help them achieve their most honorable dream, but also ensuring that even when they go into their programs, they are able to leverage the opportunities around them. We tend to, in many cases, underestimate the power of community, even if it does not necessarily or directly affect you, or you can't quantify the benefits from it. The fact that you're surrounded by people like you who are heading in the same direction is super amazing. And it gives you the kind of clarity that you cannot get when you move alone. I would also want us to take note of this. Because of Zoom's limits on meetings, this would end abruptly at the end of a 40-minute mark. So should this webinar end, it's an hour webinar. Hopefully it doesn't go beyond that. But should this end, you would have to please log in with the same details that you have with you. So take note of that to join us quickly for the series. Now, that said, the webinar series on resume editing, even though it's been channeled towards those who are applying for MBA programs, you will realize that many of the things that I will discuss here, not policies or practice, but principles, are equally applicable to you when you're applying to grad school or where you're working. In fact, the only difference between an MBA resume and a grad school PhD research resume is the inclusion of a different section called publications. And the same principle applies. So beyond that, it is the same. With respect to work, there's little or no difference with your work resume and your MBA resume, because what school require of you is your work resume. But if you're creating an MBA resume, what we're basically saying is we're pushing your resume up to international standards and not what our recruiter around there require. In fact, if you come to think about it, you do not necessarily need a resume for a job in Nigeria. Think about it. Once you're well placed, except for international firms, but yeah, except for international firms that are well known. But for other subsectors and other areas, once you know someone that knows someone that knows someone, your resume is all formalities. And because of that trend, we tend to not think deeply about what our resume is all about. In many cases, even for those companies, big firms, what they do is just see the resume. Whoever has first class goes for the next round. Or second class, third class, they see you through, and that's all. And you come and you sit for a test, and they take it off from there. So resumes are not given as much attention. Again, I said with the exception of international firms whose recruiting exercise is global. With the exception of those firms, resumes are not paid as much attention as they should be paid in many of these places. And that's why it's important that when you're applying to business school or grad school generally, you should and you must edit your resume to match what is required. Today, the format for this webinar, again, is split into 3 days: today, Saturday, and Monday. And the reason why we've done it that way is because you can't finish a resume editing in one sitting. That's one thing you must learn. In fact, an actual resume editing should take you nothing less than 2 to 4 weeks to properly do. Second, you cannot outsource your resume editing. I'll talk about that in a minute. So the structure for this webinar basically is I'm going to be having a conversation with the owner of this resume. The person's name is fictional name for now, is Guten. So we're going to go with Guten, and don't worry about the address or the phone number or the email address. It's not going to go, so don't bother. Don't also take many of the names to heart, because we've edited a couple of them just to protect the identity of the person who has allowed us use our resume and allowed us use our experience to create this webinar. So before I introduce her, let me just say, hello, Guten. Can you hear me? Are you there?
Hello.
Oh, great. Good. So before we start our conversation, Guten, as regards your resume, I will quickly talk about, so this webinar basically is split into, we'll talk about the introduction, which I've just covered up. Then I'll talk about the subsection before we begin. Third, we talk about reviewing our resume. And then tomorrow we'll delve into editing your work experience section of your resume. But before we start our conversation, Guten, I just want to quickly talk about the things that people should take note of. I hope you have your pen, please, and you have your resume beside you. If you have your laptop near you, please just open your resume and start thinking about how you will transform your resume from what it is right now to what it should be as we go on. But before we begin, there are a couple of things, 5 things I need you to understand. Number 1, nothing trumps content. Nothing trumps the content of your resume, no matter how beautiful the layout is, no matter how awesome or well-connected you are, or well-known in your circle. If you cannot distill your experience into valuable content on your resume, you cannot get into business school. And generally speaking, you cannot get admission. So a large chunk of what you do comes down to you being able to distill your content, distill your experience into those words on your resume. I'm going to say something quickly. Take, for instance, you have what I would call 100% experience, which is to say that even Harvard would want to interview you if you have that kind of experience. But you fail to distill it to the most important things, or you distill it to only 50% of its value, and you put it on your resume. And somebody else with 60% of your experience is able to distill his own experience to 60%, or say 50% on his resume. At the end of the day, the end result, most people or most interviewers, all things being equal, and all other areas amazing as well, most interviewers, if they had to pick between resume, will go for the one who's been able to distill his or her experience to the 55% level on their resume. So you must understand that your content trumps formats. In fact, the more content you have in terms of quality, not quantity of content, the more likely it is that resume reviewers, in this case, your admission committee, the more likely they are to overlook some format errors. The second thing you must know is you're not writing an essay in your resume. So any resemblance of essay in your resume right now is a sign that you are probably not doing the right thing. Second of all, it is all about design. Think about resume as a design work. Now, and I'll explain that in a moment. Take, for instance, art. We can all look at one art and interpret it differently. If I'm an artist and I'm thinking of how beautiful the art is, and I'm saying, you know what, to me, it is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. If the audience you're creating the art for says it's ugly, your art is ugly. It is as simple as that. If they say it is ugly, your art is ugly. There's nothing you can do about it. Same thing that goes with cars. Think about all the car models that you have. I'm sure, think about the car model that you hate the most right now, that just looks so ugly to you. Do you have it now? Okay, so I'm guessing you have that car in your mind now. Don't puke, just chill. I'm getting to a point. The designers of those cars, or that car in your mind that you so much hate, do you think they don't have university degrees? Do you think they're not smart? Do you think they didn't call what you call design meetings and sat down and say, you know what, this is the best for our market? They all did. So if you find it ugly or you find the car useless, it is because they are not targeting you. You're not their market. There's a car I used to remember, they call it the family cruiser. It looks like, I've forgotten the name right now, not so good with cars anyway. But you get what I'm saying? Or a particular kind of Jeep. There's a Jeep that looks so ugly to me right now. It's really expensive, yeah, but I'm not the target market. And what does this imply? And how does this apply to your resume? What I'm basically saying is, no matter how much you love your resume is not for you. Your resume is not to make you happy and dream sweet dreams in the middle of the night. Your resume is not meant to put a smile on your face all day because you've been able to design it to your taste. Your resume should be tailored to your audience. And the more you think about how will my audience perceive this resume, the better your resume is. The fourth thing you need to know is resume editing for MBA application or any kind of application is more about achievement editing. It's achievement based and not role based. And what am I trying to say? When I say something is achievement based, what we are basically saying is, I want to see your achievements in the role that you're taking part in and not your roles and responsibilities. Because the point is, if I take someone who has shared the same roles and responsibility with you, hold their CV side by side yours, what is going to make you stand out? You both have the same roles, you both have the same responsibilities. What is going to make you stand out? Is it the fact that you live in Ijesha and one lives in Ogun State? I mean, you get the idea. I mean, is it the fact that you live in Abuja and the other person lives in Lagos State? Is it the fact that you're a Muslim on your resume and the other person is a Christian? No. Everything that a recruiter wants to evaluate is based on your achievement in your role and not your role. And besides that, roles from companies, the same role from company to company can vary. So it is oranges against apple if I have to compare roles together. The last thing is, again, it's just a corollary of the first thing about the third point about design. It is for your audience and not for you. Your resume is for your audience and not for you. And the last thing, which is like the sixth, is do not dream of outsourcing your resume. And I'll explain that in a minute. When you outsource your resume to someone to edit for you, they are only going to be able to edit what you placed in your resume. But how are we so sure that because you can't think clearly or you do not know what should go into your resume, you haven't left out important details? Now you just send your resume and the person edits the 40% of your value content or your experience content, edits that to the best. There is nothing he can do. He cannot get 41% because what you have on your resume, the maximum anyone can get out of it is 40%. The next stage many of these resume reviewers take is they ask you to pay more for time. So I take 1 hour to say, you know what, I'm going to talk about your experience and all that, which is a lot better than just sending your resume and editing for errors and formats and all that. But I'm going to take 1 hour and I say, you know what, I'm going to go through your resume. I'm going to speak to you. I want to know your understanding. Do you think you can distill your 5 years experience, in some cases 10 years experience, under 1 hour? Do you think you can make somebody understand your whole life, what you've done, why you've done what you've done, what you're trying to achieve under 1 hour? I don't think so. So the beauty about having to edit your resume yourself is because only you have the 100% of your whole experience. The second part I'd like to talk about is the benefit of your resume that you do not see. When it forces you to think about your life. In fact, for everybody applying for MBA programs, the first thing I would always advise them to do is to edit your resume. Editing your resume forces you to think about your stories. And in the process of editing your resume, you're forced to weigh out which of your experience is important. You're forced to prioritize which content should go into your resume. And when you're even applying for a job, it is based off the story you tell in your resume that you can create a cover letter to answer questions that your resume raises. The second thing is being able to edit your resume translates into guys, okay. Being able to edit your resume basically translates into a great interview experience because you've thought deeply and tried as much as possible to distill your experiences into a 2-line bullet. And the last thing is you do not need a new experience to transform your resume. By the time we're done with this series, and you put your existing resume side by side your final resume, and you send it to a recruiter, they are not going to be able to identify that it was you because it would have changed so much that you look like a new person. So you do not need new experiences to update your resume. What you have and what you've experienced so far is enough. So Guten, do I have you? Let's start with your resume.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, great. So
All right, Sam, sorry to cut you short.
Okay.
Just a reminder that in 40 minutes, about 15 minutes, the Zoom meeting is going to go off and we'd all need to rejoin the meeting so we can continue.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Amarachi. Okay, so good to have your resume here. First of all, I want to say it's better than most of the resumes I've seen. I mean, it's not where it should be, but it's better than many of the resumes I've seen. And if you've done so much with this resume, I'm sure you could do a lot more with the changes we're about to make. But before I delve into that, I want you to understand that when I say some things, please don't take it personal. I'm saying it for the benefit of time. And I'm just trying to be as direct as much as possible for the benefit of time, yourself, and other people who are listening and watching this. Again, I want to say a very big thank you for volunteering yourself. Just want to be sure everyone can see what I'm presenting. Okay, yes. So I want to say a very big thank you for volunteering yourself, using your resume, allowing us to use your resume to help other people see clarity. Thank you, because it's not possible that one person is able to attend to address resumes by 13 or 20 people. That said, again, Guten is, are you there?
I'm with you, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to address your resume from two angles. First of all, I'll address it from the layout point of view. Second of all, I'll address it from the content point of view. So as much as possible, we'll trash out the layout, and the next thing we will do is to trash out the content. But today I'm hoping that the only part that would be able to get to the education side, and tomorrow we'll deal with your work experience, or what you call professional experience. So speaking of layout, the first thing that jumps at me is the layout is inconsistent. One thing you don't want to have in a resume is 3 different font types or 3 different styles. And I'll point that out quickly. So where you work, your workplace here is in sentence format. But down here, you have it in capital letter. This is in 10. Again, this is going to log out in 9 minutes. So once this logs out, please log back in with the same link. Your font size for your career objective is 10. Your education is 12. Your university is 11. No, your font should be consistent all through. The reason about that is uniformity. Sometimes it's difficult for the eyes or the mind to point out errors, but we just know it's there. And for people who've been reviewing good resumes over the years, they just know something is wrong. They can't pen it down. And somehow it just affects their mood. And they're like, okay, something is wrong with this resume. I can't seem to figure it out, but I don't just like what I see. And that totally influences how they grade your resume. The second reason why you want to stay with one font all through, preferably font 11, is space. as you think, oh, you think this is not important. This gap between education and university is enormous. I could fit 2 bullet lines into this. So if you have so much to say, and that's part of the reason why your resume is extending to 2 pages, because even by formatting alone, I could reduce all this to 1 page. The second thing I want to talk about, which I'm already delving into, is you're having a 2-page resume. If you have less than 10 years experience, everything you do, you should be able to distill it into 1 page. And the reason for that basically is twofold. First of all MBA schools, when they're creating your final, when you resume and they're editing your resume, they're all going to go for the 1-page resume format. They are all recruiters in the US, and maybe not in Europe. Europe still sticks to 2-page resume, so you may be fine. But in the US and Canada, they stick with a 1-page resume. And the reason why they do that is, think about it. One company, sometimes the recruiter has to review tons of resume per day. If he or she has 50 resumes to review, and she doesn't have an hour to do that, you will be shocked at how short a time people have to review your resume. First of all, they send it through some resume reviewing software that distills it for action verbs. And if your action verbs don't match what they're looking for, they'll just automatically send you a computer email saying, well, sorry, we're not going to accept your application at this time. The second stage is, even after distilling, like, say, 10,000 resume, you'd be shocked to get that amount of resume every time. Even after distilling to like 2,000, and one person has to review 2,000 resume, you think he's going to have the time to sit down and review 2-page resume? No, that's one. Secondly, many companies still have to print the resume out. And in the process of printing resumes out, many fail to staple your 2-page resume out. In the process of even moving from one place to another, the last page could go off. Do you think you're going to go back and say, okay, who is this person? This person, let me see our resume. In 2000, they'll go down. Okay, good thing. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, they don't have that time. So they'll go with that 1 page. And they presume that if I can't be convinced based on 1 page, then you probably don't have anything to say in your second page. That is why it's important that you distill your experience on that 1 page. There are 3 exceptions. 3 exceptions being, if you have an experience, number of years of experience that is above 10 years, 1. If you work in government, 2. And if you work in the academic space. If you work in the academic space, I say work, not as a student. By working, you're not a student. You're an assistant lecturer, you're a lecturer, you're something, you're a professor, where you have to list out all your papers and publications. If you have less than 5 publications, you should still stick to 1 page. So those are the 3 exceptions as to why you can have a 2-page resume. The other thing I want to talk about is layout. Now, many people would want to crucify me for this, but let me state this clearly. I'm going back to the principle of design. The designer of a Toyota Camry is not targeting the market of a Maserati. They're not targeting the same market. So as a designer of Toyota, even if you like a Maserati, you are not going to prepare or design your car to look like a Maserati, because your market does not, some of them don't even know what a Maserati is, right? Your market does not care that you have a Maserati. They want a Toyota. They want a fuel-efficient car. So when you're designing your resume, it does not, in fact, what you like is out of question. They don't care what you like. They care what they like. So when you are designing your resume, it's usually useful, and there's a back and forth conversation. And no matter who you send your resume to, they're always going to bash your layouts because it's not what they do, what they want to see, right? But you have to ask yourself, are they the ones giving you the job? Are they the ones giving you the admission? So if they're doing that, then, oh, fine, you can use their layout. The implication of this is, before you send your resume out to your school, stylishly call up a student and ask them to send you their resume. Format your resume to look like that. It takes a lot of work, but it makes the work of a recruiter easy. It does one thing. Yes, it makes their work easy. Secondly, what it does is it means you don't do hard work. Networking is a very crucial element in your MBA recruiting exercise. If I'm a recruiter and I see that your resume looks exactly like my school, I know that you only know it because you've spoken to a student. It gives credibility and it validates your application. So just for the sake of this interview, there are tons of resume. What you have here, for instance, this is talk resume. I don't know if anyone can see this. New share, okay, talk. Okay, this is going to end in 2 minutes. So if it logs you out, please just log back in with the same link. So this is talk, Dartmouth. This is the resume. That's the Talk School of Business. I also have that of Harvard. This is what it looks like. You see the format are basically the same. So basically, this, in terms of content, every resume should have education, experience, and personal. Some people call it skills and interest. Other people call it other experience, but the idea is the same. There's also, I also have that of Berkeley as they have education, experience, additional. So the whole idea is basically the same, but the format is different. For the sake of this webinar, we'll go with Talks resume. And what I'm going to just do is quickly edit. Again, this is based on Talks resume. You can see, Guten, that the difference here is everything is in 10, except for this, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. The name again is in 18. Many people would argue for that, but trust me, do you think if your font size is just 14 or 12 or actually 10, it's going to be difficult for them to see when they print? I don't think so. So long your resume is legible, and people can see what you have, then you are good. So I'm going to put your resume side by side, and I would quickly edit this. Again, I'll leave the name. I'll put the name for you, Guten Morgen, and I'll leave you to put take a look here. I have a career objective or summary. Again, that is not important, and I'll explain why it's not important. First of all, nobody reads it. Why? Because it's your own representation or assessment of your capabilities. And nobody in their right senses will speak ill of themselves. So you're going to pad your resume with subjective terms and speak about your experience in glowing terms. I don't need your own interpretation, or the interviewer or the recruiter or the school does not need your own or my interpretation of my experience. What they need is what I've done. So if I say my passion for helping people drew me, again, this is nothing specific to you. If I add this, I'll trash it out. If it was my own content, lucky enough for me, I never add this. But if it was anybody, I will trash this out. When you say you cultivated skills, like, did you plant the skills? Again, I'm not addressing you. Basically, please understand that when I'm using all these words, I'm trying to joke about it. It is the same thing I would do to anybody else. Did you plant how did you plant the skills? Like, cultivate could be anything. Skills in client relationship management. What is client relationship management? Were you in charge of? So my point basically is I could go down and down into every line, and you realize that most of the words are laced with your own interpretation of your experience. No, don't interpret your experience for me. Just tell me what you did. So the career objectives part is a waste of space. One, people don't pay attention to it. They don't read it because they have tons of resume to review. Secondly, they know it's laced with subjective terms. So we're going to forget about that part. The next thing I need you, again, another reason, which is like the fourth reason is, then what do you put in your cover letter if you put a mini cover letter in your resume? You remember we need it to be 1 page, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a mini cover letter, so what are you going to put in your cover letter at the end of the day? So you're basically duplicating information. So you see all these things, we'll get to the stage where the company will say, okay, now I need you to communicate your own interpretation of your experience. That is what your cover letter is for. But your resume, just give me the facts. I don't want your interpretation. If you say you manage, for all I care, the way you manage the team could be, you probably just put them together and you say, you know what, every Monday morning, I'll be buying food for you. That's a form of management, right? You're managing hunger. And if you're managing hunger for a team, you're indirectly managing a team. For all we care, you could be driving them in your car to work. You're managing the team. You're helping them get to work early. So terms like any word that can be ambiguous or subjective should not be on your resume. We'll talk about that in details when we go towards your bullet points. So now you have your education here. There's something I need you to understand. Your education is more than your experience. You stayed in school between 2009 to 2012. The only thing, let me rephrase, I'll take that back. You schooled between 2009 to 2012. That's about 4 years. Are you telling me that the only thing you did in 4 years is to get a bachelor degree? In fact, let me use my resume. I think I like to bash myself even more. Did I do anything better? Oh, okay, yeah. I'm going to bash myself here, and you get the point. I attended I attended UI between 2009 and 2015. Am I saying the only thing that I did is just get the first class and graduate? Is that how pathetic my life was? And to even think of the most important thing out of my life is my project topic. Oh, how pathetic. I'm thinking about it right now and I'm just, Sam, did you come up with this? And then I have my project topic saying structural analysis of who cares about Appleton Road, really? my recruiter or the MBA does not even know what structural analysis. So my point is, if you have your project topic in your resume, please, before I see it, just stylishly squeeze it out. No one needs to see your coursework in your resume either. We only want to see what you've done. Now, I'll go back to Guten's resume. So between 2009 and 2012, you've done a lot. You've engaged in clubs activity. You've engaged in teams, committees, other relevant activities. Your education line should go beyond your academic. So your first line should be, I'm going to come here. I'm probably going to change this, if you don't mind, University of Benin. Again, there's no need to put Benin because we're using a different format. This is what you would do. If you're sending your resume abroad, you can just put the city, Benin, out the state, and then NGA. NGA represent Nigeria. If they don't know what the NGA is, they'll pick it up from your information data, basically. The next thing you want to do is just put your degree, bachelor. In fact, some people will argue that you use BSc. Again, most people know what BSc is. Some would argue, spell out the name in full. Again, it's just a matter of preference. In this space, I'm going to just do what? You know what? I'm going to type biochemistry. The next thing I want to see beside your degree, put a full stop. The next thing I want to see beside it is your GPA, 4.0. That's cool. 4.04/5.0. Now, this is not, I'm going to say why this doesn't work, right? In the US, they use a 4-point system. So they're not going to understand what a 5.0 CGPA. I have a 7.0 scale in UR. They're not going to understand what a 7.0 GPA scale means or what a 5. So it's better to say, is this a first class or a 2-1? I don't even know what a 5. That's a 2-1. So you need to look for the Latin equivalent. There's summa cum laude. There's magna cum laude. So I think this is magna cum laude. Look for the Latin equivalent of your grade. and put it there. Again, if you were a first class student where you were like the top in class, number one, you could also add ranked first out or 30 students. How many of you guys were in class? How many students were in your class?
We're almost 100.
You were almost 100. What was your position? Could you get your ranking?
I think we're about 120 in my class, so I would say I was in the top 30, 40.
Yeah?
The top 30.
Top 30. So you need to do the percentage of that, right? So in this case, I can't use first, second, or third. The only time you can use first, second, or third is when you were ranked within that range. The other way to phrase, because if you just tell me you finished with a 2-1, I might think you were lazy in class, but I know you guys were now that I know you guys were 120, I'm trying to imagine how difficult it was for you to finish with a 2-1. For all you care, even if you finish with the first class, you might just be 10 in class. That's not competitive. So you need to be able to paint the context to the recruiter to understand that, you know what, I did finish with a magna cum laude, but trust me, there were many dollars in my class. I mean, I'm basically trying to say I was smarter. So the way we would phrase that, you said top 30. If I do the ratio of top 30, that's 30 over 120. That's 1 over 4. That's in the top 25%. So top 25% of 120 might be a way to go. Again, if that does not play to your strength, you can just play it down and say magna cum laude. But if you were in the top 5%, top 10%, just say top 10%. This is what I'll say. Top magna cum laude, full stop, top 10%, 120 students, full stop. That's it. The next thing is you can now move on to other bullets. Again, some formats will say use bullets. Some formats will say use paragraphs. Some formats will tell you, you know what, I just need 3 lines. But what I'm saying is at the end of the day, this line must, if you're using bullets, make sure it doesn't exceed more than 3 lines. I favor the paragraph one, where you basically list out all your experiences. So let's think about it. Did you get any awards in school?
Well, I wouldn't say we did much of that. More social.
More social, okay. So again, your awards could be academic awards. It could be social awards. I remember when I was finishing in school, I had this award more of social because I wasn't the first. So I didn't get a Dean's Award, even though I finished with the first class. But I had a social award that ranked all influential students on the scale and picked the top 10 for that set. And I think I was 7th on the rank for the most sought after students that year. I was 7th on that rank, on that ranking system. When I brought it into my resume, 7th is not glamorous, right? What I just did was to say I was among the top 10, or I just picked the award. This is not lying. This is presenting your information in the best possible way. So I said top most sought after scholar award, most sought after award, and then I indicated full stop, not column, 10 awardees per year. That's another way to rephrase it. So even if you have social awards, you need to be able to state that social award. You could say social awards, social, blah, blah, blah. The title of the award. What's the title of this award?
Most friendly, most relational.
Was it a faculty, departmental, or university award?
Departmental.
Departmental award. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other award? Did you participate in any competition in school?
No, not really. I don't think I remember much of this thing.
Okay. Now, if you don't remember, you need to remember. It is really important that you remember.
I would I would say it wasn't particular. I could say when it comes to class functionality, when you want to call
Yes.
the top 20 students in class, I very much in that cycle.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
wouldn't say I was really out for the plagues and that.
Mm, You're right. Many of us didn't consider the plagues to be really important then, but it's the benefit of not just capturing your experience, your academic experience along the academic line is many schools are looking for well-rounded individuals. They're looking for well-rounded leaders. So they do not just want to see that you went to school and did the barest minimum. That's graduate with a grade or with a good grade. They want to see that you engage in other extracurricular activities and you did things that
I
okay.
could
So you
say,
did
I could say
okay.
I
Yeah.
represented my department when it came to symposiums. Um, yeah, pharmaceutical related symposiums in school. I was among the
Okay.
team. So I think
Okay.
aside that,
How many symposiums did you attend?
I can't remember. Maybe like two or three of them. That's one.
Okay. Where
And I
was this
was,
symposium? Sorry to break you. You'll come to that. Where was this symposiums?
oh, one was in school and one was outside school.
Okay.
Then
Hold on a
also,
second. Just hold on to your thought. Let's finish with the award. What did you call the name of this award?
okay, the first one was relational, most friendly now.
Was friendly, and then the other one was what?
I was a symposium.
Okay, symposium. Okay, so we'll come to the symposium. Let's treat the awards first. So most friendly student award. How many times did you win this award?
I was only given one.
I was only
So
given one. So how many people received the award?
I was the winner in the category.
You were the winner in that category. Okay. So I'm going to just delve into other kind of awards and how to present them. Most friendly award, if take for instance, there were only two awardees. The way to do it is to say most friendly award is to say there's some questions. Um,
There were like six nominees or six or
there are
seven.
six
Yeah.
nominees, six or seven nominees. So, okay, the way to phrase this is most friendly student award, right? You can say one awardee per year. Per year. Now, what does this say? This is basically saying that, you know what? Out of a student of 120, you received the most friendly student award. What that means is your future classmates are most likely going to find you very friendly and are going to be finding themselves comfortable with you. So you see all the subtle details that you could not put into your SOP, that you could not put into your application document, that maybe your recommender did not even remember to talk about. You can slide them into your resume as quickly as much as possible. Because what they're going to do, the admission officer is going to, or the recruiter, again, I'm going to use them interchangeably. If you are attending this webinar because of jobs and all that, it's fine. Just understand that it's equally applicable in that world. If you're able to succinctly and provide context, I'll come to the questions and I'll answer them. If you're able to provide context to what you did, you are most likely going to help them appreciate the competition you face and the importance of the award you have. So most friendly student, to you, it might seem like something really small, but it's an award. People are recognizing that, oh, you are throughout the year, people could approach you, not appreciate you. People could approach you, people could talk to you. That is a big deal to schools. They're not going to admit people that will just lock up and not relate with other students because they are leveraging, they're counting on your experience and counting on the network and the relationships you are building to understand and say, are you the right fit for this school? So most friendly student award should go there. Because yes, it is what you have, and be proud of what you have. That's one thing you'll learn about your resume. Do not play down your own experience. It is unique in its own way, and people will die. And think about it. People who leave Nigeria and they go start their restaurants in the US and they provide traditional dishes. Don't you think you can cook better than them? But because they're in an environment that now appreciates that uniqueness, you see them cooking, I'm going to mention amala, and then it's not, you pick, oh my goodness, you just cut amala with your hand and it has this nice feel. But then you cut it and it looks like, but people would appreciate it better because it's something similar to what they'll get back home. That's the same idea here. You think it's not relevant, but trust me, the admission committee thinks it is important. So I'll come to the questions. Please continue to drop your question. I'll come to that in a minute. Yeah, right on. So we've talked about this.
I just remembered some things. I think I held the secretary for the biochemistry students Christian Fellowship.
So secretary.
I was yes, for the
biochemistry
student fellowship, yeah. And I was a honorable parliamentarian in the student union government.
Oh my goodness! Why did you idle of all this? Honorable.
It's beneath my CV. It's in my leadership and volunteering, so I didn't place it there.
Okay, so I can understand why it's in your leadership and volunteering role, because when you just graduated, you were looking for a way to populate your experience quota. But as you gain more experience, how many years? You have 5.5 working experience. You've done more work that will populate your work experience. So some of all those things has to start moving up under your education. Remember, the fact that it's education does not mean it is restricted to only academic experience. Everything you did between 2009 to 2012 still falls under that category. That's a mistake most people make. They think it only has to be academic related. No, it doesn't. It doesn't even have to relate to your school. If you were running a business outside of campus, put it there. If you participated in a beauty pageant that has nothing to do with your school, put it there. If you were awarded the best team leader, put it there. If you want anything outside of your school, but within that time frame, put it under your education. It is still part of your experience. So let's go on. Honorable what?
Parliamentarian of the Student Union Government in West Virginia.
Parliamentarian Student Union. Government. You know why your education is so important? It is the first thing a recruiter or admission committee would look at. If that part does not set the right tone for them, you begin to raise the bar for yourself. You begin to raise the bar, then they begin to start to look at your resume as that of a non-achiever. So even though your work experience will try as much as possible to lower that barrier, you have first by your own self raised that barrier for them. So you want your education to stand out is the first thing. Chances are that if it is impressive, you're most likely going to get a resume, get a reviewer to pay attention to other details. If it's not impressive, they're just going to go over other things and not pay close attention to it. So this, I'm going to expand this. Okay, I'm going to expand this. So most friendly student award, I'm going to remove the comma, the apostrophe for now. Most friendly student award. Again, another thing you must try to avoid putting anything in brackets. There's with one exception, your roles and position. If you pinch your screen and you expand it, you see what I'm talking about. So most friendly student award, column, use column to give more details. You can see I'm using column here. Use full stop to indicate the end of something. So most friendly student award, 1 awardee per year, full stop. You are signaling that I'm moving to something else. Secretary, biochemistry student fellowship, full stop. You can even indicate the total number. How many people were in the fellowship?
That's like over 500 students because the old
Good.
department.
500 students, right?
Let's say 550, 600.
So I'm going to put greater than 500. The other thing you need to learn how to use is learn how to use signs. So anything that is greater than 500, you cannot exactly remember, put 500. If you are rounding up, use this sign, the windy sign. I can't remember the name, but if you zoom in and see what it's shifts, and I probably need to put that in, let me see. So yes, it's in the comment section. I'll put that sign in the comment section. Use it to indicate approximately. So instead of saying approximately or using approximately in full, use that sign to indicate it. If you're saying less than 500 students, again, it's a way to manage perception. If you did 400, instead of saying 400, you could say less than 500. Although that could be counted against you because even 1 is less than 500. So just use greater than 500 students. You can't remember precisely. You don't have to remember the precise number. The difference between 500 and 600 is insignificant to them because it's still the same. It's just about numbers. But the difference between 500 and 1 or 10 is significant. So as the orders of tens increases, then the significance increases. So in this case, greater than 500 students. Do you see that how I would perceive this is different? You're Secretary of Biochemistry Student Fellowship. First of all, if you just put back, for all I know, it could be 10 students. It could be 5. It could be 6. It could be 2. It could be just you and somebody else who decides to attend fellowship that day. But by telling me you're doing 500 students, it means that there's a lot of work to do as a secretary. So I can put your secretarial role in better perspective. You're dealing with 500 students. So honorable parliamentarians, the union government, can you tell me the total number of student population?
University of Benin. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't think I can remember, but I feel over 25,000 or let's say 20,000. I won't make that research much later.
So with numbers, please do that. With numbers, use K to represent thousands. I'm going to come back to the question. I might even take a break to answer those questions now. Use K to represent thousands. Use M to represent millions. So instead of saying 20 million naira, say 20M. Remember, you're sending your resume to the US. So convert every monetary value to the exchange rate at the time you worked. You don't need the exact figure. Just an approximate will work. So if the figure was when dollar was equals to 360, just divide it and use the dollar sign to represent it. Nobody understands the value of 200 million naira. But if you convert it to the dollar, again, it all resides on the principle of who your audience is. In Nigeria, we understand dollars. If we want to try and minimize the impact of the number, we convert it to dollars. So if you think your resume is going to the US, please convert all those naira equivalent to dollars. So I'm going to say, you said 20,000, right?
Yeah, we can use that figure.
So approximately 20K, capital K students. Now I'm done with that part. Again, our resume is beginning to take shape. What other thing do we have there?
I think that's most of it.
Okay, why do you think? Think. Let me try and answer the question.
I play football, but I wouldn't say I was like an awardee or anything. It was just for because I enjoy doing it. So I just
awesome. How many people, how many ladies do you know play football?
Someone has come to the rescue.
Yeah, someone's saying 40K. So we're going to change that to 40K. The fact that you're honorable parliamentarian in school is amazing, and you're dealing with 40K students. Why did you hide this leadership story?
I didn't hide it. It's one of the most important things I ever did in school because I enjoyed it, and
Okay.
I really wanted to do student representation.
Okay, good. You might not be able to create a separate bullet for it. Maybe we can discuss that later. But the fact that you were part of a student union government with over 40,000 cents is amazing. I'll answer other question. Think about it. Amarachi is asking, if you finished with a 2-2, no awards, how do you best present yourself? That's a very interesting question. If you finish with a 2-2, your academics is not your strong point. You know, there are pillars for application. One, you need to work very closely with your recommenders. It's a tall order, it's challenging, but it's not impossible. You need to work very closely with your recommenders. You need to explain why you had a 2-2 in school in your resume, or address it in the additional information. And you need to do incredibly well in your GRE. Now, to answer your question of if you finish with a 2-2 with no awards, think about how you involved. I like to think that you got involved in clubs, you took leadership roles, you probably represented your school, you participated in competitions. All those extracurricular activities now becomes very, very important. And you must show that despite not excelling in academic areas, you excelled and triumphed in non-academic activities. That's what I'd say. So you want to think deeply about all the things we've talked about. Clubs, activities, awards, representations, competitions. Think about all those things. There has to be something you got yourself involved in that took your time and attention from your academics that you can use to show that, oh, you didn't go to school to sleep. Kimberly is asking, I was awarded best team leader of my class. Is that relevant? So relevance is relative. You want to ask? You want to say something?
No, I just remember some other things while you were going through this.
Okay, please just note it down. Relevance is relative. So take for instance, Guten's resume that we are reviewing right now. If she puts awarded best team leader in her class, it's just going to water down her CV. Do you know why? Because she's already an honorable parliamentarian of a student union government. Why does she have to bring herself and stoop so low to put in her resume that she was class captain? So if you have other experiences that supersedes this, please take it out. But if it is the only thing that you can use to show leadership skills, again, understanding who your audience is. All business schools are looking for leaders. They're looking for the potential to work with teams. They want to be able to see that you can work under stress. You can lead teams. You can think analytically. All those qualities, if you read up the websites of the schools that you're applying to, you will see the values that they hold in high esteem. And you should seek to communicate to the recruiter or to the admission committee that you exhibit these values. So if you're going to put awarded best team in your class, that better be your only, what's the word? That better be your only mute, okay? That better be your only leadership role. You were the winner of Nigeria Youth Academy. Of course, by all means, put it there. You're the winner. Just put Nigerian Young Academy Oral Presentation winner. Column. How many people contested? Put that number. So you want to say first out of 20,000 applicants. If you're first out of 20,000 applicants, it's different when you're first out of 2,000 applicants or you're first out of 2 applicants. So you want to put that perspective in place. The other question, oral presentation award. What is the oral presentation award? Was it just a class award or was it just a national award? Again, when you're thinking of what to put in your resume, think of it in terms of location. If you won the Young Nigerian Award, Nigeria Young Academy Award, and it took place in Japan, Japan should be there because it shows change of location. If it took place at the national level, you can put winner, national winner. It's important. So you're putting that in context. If it was just at the university level, there's no need. But if it was national, you want to put it there that, you know what, this award, though, it was national. If it was continental, put it there. It should be on your resume. The next thing, vice president of your department, yes, do it. So it was a national award. Again, you cannot hide the fact that it was a national award. So you want to put it as Nigerian Youth Academy Award. Column, you put column and you say something like one awardee. I'm typing that. One awardee per year. One awardee per year nationwide. Yeah, that's how you phrase that. One, oh, I'm even sending this privately. This should be to everyone. Yep, one awardee per year. Yep, that's it. So I hope that answers your question. Vice president of your department, yes, it's relevant. When you're putting in vice president, don't put off your department. You want to take out as much filler words in your resume. Off, and, in, out. Take out all those prepositions. So vice president / department, column, the total number of students in your department. Yes, it is relevant. Very relevant. Again, relevance is relative. The more you have to now prioritize and rank your experience and choose the top ones. If the students, someone is asking, if the student got involved with so many extracurricular activities and still managed grade wise, will it be bragging to? It is not. Hey, it is not bragging. See, what we consider to be bragging in Nigeria is not bragging in the US. Brag all you want on your resume when applying. It is to short-minded or short-sighted people in Nigeria that they think it's bragging to put your extracurricular activities. Please put it up. It's important. Just prioritize. You can't put everything. If you have 10, prioritize and put 4, 5, or 3, depending on how much space you can put. Okay, yeah, I think I've answered all the questions, and this will end very soon. The other thing I want to point out before I come back to Q10, we'll talk about other things, is, again, it's not good that your resume has this space. Can you see this space? I don't know if anyone can see my screen anymore. Yeah, if you can see my screen, you want to make sure that it's a full line. Don't leave this space. Make use of it. Yeah, don't add filler or unnecessary things. If this is all you have, no problem. But you have more things, please make use of this space. Guten, you want to say something?
I think it's just about the awards and other things. For me, I didn't count them so important over time. What I'm just remembering now was the financial secretary of my tribe, people in the rest of Benin at one point in time. So, but I don't think it's necessary.
Okay. No. See, one thing about experience, when you're reviewing your CV, put everything in. Put everything in. When you're done, I'm going to put it here. When you're done, financial sec. When you're done, then you can now start to prioritize the content. What's the name of the association?
Kope Student Association of the West of Benin.
Kope. Can you spell that? Kope. Don't worry about me. You're a boy. Don't.
OKPE.
OKPE. PE. Okay.
Student Association of the West of Benin.
So what we can do is secretary, right? Just a secretary / biochemistry. We can do this. Students, put a semicolon and then put the association as well. Question as how many students?
Over 300.
Okay,
but, not everybody comes to meeting.
Yeah, but membership is fine. Students full stop. So you can have, so full stop. So that's extending. Again, we just want to limit this. Again, the number of lines under your education should not go beyond 3. At most 3, it should be between 2 and 3. So we'll find a way to minimize it, but let's leave this the way it is. I think that's all for education. One thing you want to do is you need to put your year. You also want to put the name of the school you're going to. Now that you are an incoming MBA candidate, you need to put that in, and that's fine. The next thing I want to talk about is Coursera. Putting Coursera courses on your resume would impress an average person, but will not impress a business committee. That you put Harvard and attended a 1-week online course. It's just, yeah, okay, great. So back, what I was going to say is Coursera courses. I was talking about all these online courses and the recent trend towards trying to get online courses. Basically, when you have online courses, it would impress the average person, but it's not going to impress your audience. The fact that you did a 2-week online course with Harvard, think about it. I'm an admission officer for Stanford or UBC, and you're telling me that the most important thing in your life is a 2-week course, online course at Harvard. What that is really implying is you do not know your what. You do not know your value. You do not know how to prioritize. You do not know what should stand out for you. So you want to avoid it. You could put it in your personal. Put it in your personal if you have tons of online Coursera courses. Say, for instance, in the past 2 years, you've taken like 10 or 12 Coursera courses. You can just say, oh, you're a Coursera addict, and you put 12 courses in 1 year. Or you've taken 10 or 50 courses in 2 years. Yes, that's impressive. But beyond that, you do not want to put Coursera as your major course. It just waters down your resume. Don't also try to put other things under a separate area. You want to avoid that as well. Same thing with Coursera. You put Coursera and you put it as education, and you bring it down. It would water down your experience. So what I'm going to do, if you have any question, please feel free to. Does this tip apply to master's application? Yes, it does. It does to master's application. With master's application, because it's research-based, the only difference now is you will need to include publication section if you have that. If you don't, it's basically the same. People make a mistake of thinking that when they're applying to business school, your resume must be business-oriented. No. In fact, how do you think lawyers get into business school? How do you think artists, writers get into business school? They don't have any business knowledge. What many schools are looking for across board is, one, they're looking for leadership skills. They're looking for your ability to work with people. Same thing applies with masters. Masters, maybe they're looking for your ability to carry out a research in a particular area. So what they're going to be looking for is experiences in your work experience pertaining to the work you've done. If you carried on a project that is relevant to the course you're going for, by all means, put it immediately after your education. But if you didn't, it's basically the same. The same principle applies. Any more questions? As we think about our question, I will share this format with you. You all have assignments tonight to quickly go through. So when we convene, we'll come back tomorrow. You already have your resume to this stage. I'll send Guten this. You would update the rest, put the school here, leave this place to be filled later, candidate for business administration. And then this part you can say to be filled later. Is the format applicable to jobs? Yes, it is. It is very applicable. To be filled later, you can just put that. I'll share with us. I'm going to share the link where you can get the talk. I'll share it now. with the group. So yeah, you can get the copy of that from that drive. Please, by all means, download it and update. Think about all we've said today. Like I said, the recording is not going to be available to the public. It's not going to be made available now. So you need to go back and quickly download what you've learned and transform it into your resume as fast as you can. So just to quickly go through what we have so far: BSc Biochemistry, magna cum laude, top 10%, 120 students, top 30 is not so impressive, so I'll just put 20. If you can find the total number of magna cum laude, if say for instance there were only 5 of you, so you could put 5 recipients. 5 recipients, 120 students. Yeah, that makes sense. Most friendly student award, 1 awardee a year. Secretary, if you won the award 3 times, just put 3x most friendly student award. That's to indicate that you won the award 3 times. Secretary Biochemistry Student Fellowship, Student Association, less than 300 students. So we need to find a way, you need to justify this. We need to find a way to make everything come under, see if there's a short form of honorable. Yeah, so honorable parliamentarian. So we have 2 lines. Again, I need you to go back and think deeply about all these things. This is the best thing that you have so far. If there are more, include them. It doesn't matter. Don't make that decision for yourself. Let me see it, and then we can go on from there. So that said, yeah, that brings us to the end. Are there any more questions? I give us the permission to ask your question by unmuting yourself. Guten, any more question? Any more question from guys, ladies and gentlemen?
Okay, I really don't have any questions for now. I just want to say thank you for allowing me to share this and have this resume reviewed with you else. I want to say thank you. And to every input that has come thus far.
Okay, well, we're happy to do that. Thank you for sharing your resume for the class. Yeah. Someone's asking the question, how do you get this data about your class size profile? Because I know it isn't readily available in some schools. Again, an estimation is okay. So far, it's not far from reality. Class size, I knew my class size because we were only 32, right? If you were the class captain, chances are you will know because you are collating number of students. So you might just get a phone call your classmates, call your friend in school, call your class captain and ask them. Chances are they would know these things. About as a first class or how many people, in my school, there's what they call Book of Life, where they published it after graduating. There's a book that contains the total number of students. You can also get it from there, in either your matriculation magazine or your graduation magazine. They always compare, for most schools, I know about my school and some other school, they compile the total number of students that graduated, how many finished with the first guy with a 2-1. You can glean that kind of information from that place. Yeah. Any more question? With respect to education, think. Remember, you're not going to get the best if you send someone. Imagine if Guten had sent a resume to somebody to edit, and all they edited for was just for syntax and grammatical errors and send back. We would not have been able to dig up some of the information we dug up. We may not have been able to dig up or put most of our words in context. So these are the things that only you can do for yourself. And you can only do it for yourself if you have that kind of information at your fingertip. Any more questions? Yes?
So for the reason why I asked that
Oh, could you move closer to your mic? I can't hear you.
Bluetooth cancelled. I said the reason why I asked the last question is I know from my class, I only knew the number of persons that had first class. I don't know the number of persons that had 2-1, which is the space I fall into. So getting out of maybe magna cum laude, maybe 21 recipients or 7 recipients out of 100 students. I don't know that. So that's why I asked the question, how do you get that data?
Okay, so I already provided sources. I said 1, your matriculation, your graduation magazine. I don't know if your school printed that. They didn't print it. You can call up a lecturer in the school and ask them to help you find out. Or somebody in the admission block for your department.
Yeah.
Or you can reach out to your friends and ask if they are.
So I attended this seminar on CV writing, and the moderator or maybe the tutor was of the opinion that there shouldn't be a generic CV or a resume for a person. That you should have different resumes for different applications. Let's say a person is applying for a job to a particular company that is into manufacturing.
Yeah.
That the content for that application should be quite different from when you're applying to a company, an advertising firm, or a brand that wants you to be their, let's say, their model or something. That what you're applying for will determine the content of your CV.
Yeah.
Are you in support of that, sir?
Yes. Okay. I feel slightly weird with the sub, but you can just take that out. But I get. What I would say about that, it is true. One principle cuts across every application document. Customize your application document for what you're applying for. There are instances where I have had to emphasize innovation. I remember one school I was applying to, I had to emphasize innovation in that application. So I looked at all the words that I used and I formatted it to emphasize innovation. Yes, you can do that, and I encourage you to do that. But you cannot do that out of thin air. It must be based on what I'll call your master resume. So your master resume should try as much as possible to have all these things. But at the same time, yes, you should customize. But what I would discourage you from doing is trying to work in multiple industries. So it's because it's tedious, right? You're applying to an oil and gas firm, you're applying to something in banking, you want to be focused with your application. So yeah, I've had cases where even in my civil, so for instance, my resume for business school, it's not applicable in the civil engineering space because the way they write their resume is slightly different. I have to put the names of the project and all that there. That's what a portfolio is for. So yes, it is true, but you want to start with the basics or prepare your resume that can work for, so apply the 80-20 rule, focus on the 20% that will change the 80%. So if your resume can address or can, can suffice for 80% of where you're going to, that's fine. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much, sir.
My pleasure.
And then, well, sorry, it's not like an interview class. I would have loved to ask.
Go on, right on.
Okay, is this question of when you are in an interview, how to answer certain questions? Questions like, how many years do you plan to stay with us? Things like that. Do you mind addressing that?
Okay, so with that kind of question, I'm presuming you need it for an interview, so I'll just quickly summarize that. The best way to answer that question is to be honest. You say, 4 years ago, in my own case, 4 years ago, I was hoping that I'd be on Forbes list for the best entrepreneur in Nigeria for 30 under 30, blah, blah, blah. But here am I sitting down looking for a job. That humor will just break the ice. So if I say I am going to be here, I do not know where I will be, although I want to be in your company. That's how to start. So I do not know where I would be, although I would like to be here, but wherever I will be, I want to be able to do this, do that, and do that. It's as honest as that. If you go on with, you know what, I like your company, I want to be here forever, they've heard that answer over and over again. You're not going to stand out. But I can bet it with you, they'll be honest with you. They would appreciate your honesty by saying, you know what, I do not know where I'll be in 10 years. I tried it 5 years ago, but here am I sitting in front of you for a job interview. But one thing I do know is that while I'm here, and as long as I'm here, as much as I want to be here, I'll give my best. But I'm sure there are going to be more interview, more podcasts, more webinars around that area. Any more questions? Again, don't worry about whether you like this format or not. Like I said, once your content is ready, you can always switch from one format to another. It's a matter of just 30 minutes doing that, but you need to be sure your content is ready. Yeah. Any more questions? Anyone else before we say good night? Okay, in the absence of any more question, I'd like to say thank you guys for coming, and I will see you on Saturday. I already shared the link. I hope we have all the link for the resume. If we do that, if we do have that, I'm going to sign off on that note and see you on Saturday. Bye for now. Bye, everyone.